Lord Kama Sutra. I hope there aren't too many questions on either. For God's sakes, as we say.
Good evening. Your speech was wonderful. Just a brief question. You talk about knowing the market, you talk about knowing brands, you talk about knowing what customers want. Does Britannia have in-house a group of people whose only job is to study the market, whose only job is to see what the market wants, whose only job is to see what your competitor is doing, where you get all your learning and you build your ad based on that?
No, we don't have people whose only job is to see the market, because I go back to our very basic principle that if you have a group of people who are seeing what's going on in the market, and then you have another group of people who are going to execute what these people have seen, I think there's a lot lost. What we tend to do is to make people responsible, literally make them into mini profit centers. So the strength of the Indian system is that I think the best businessmen in the world are Chinese and Indian. How do they become the best businessmen is because they have this amazing capacity of being able to think like an entrepreneur and very quickly sharing or giving up jobs that they don't want to do and getting somebody else to do it. So we tend to let an individual work on that basis rather than having a team doing it. I'm not saying we're right, I'm just saying what we're doing.
Lead this routine audit. Britannia's market share is dipping, which had analysts all very worried, and Britannia's share price has fallen subsequently. Would you like to comment on this?
I think you've got to ask the ORG Mark people, because we have our own estimation of our share. What ORG Mark, I understand, has done is that they were taking X number of players in the biscuit market and giving you a market share. Now they've introduced 4 or 5 players, which we, in our internal data, always introduce. And therefore they've enlarged the market and given those large number of players 0.5%, 1%, and taken it away from the others to come to a total of 100. So when they are in a fluid state, you're going to have them correcting their data, but we're still number 1. That's what's important.
Mr. Alal, do you yourself go into the market? How do you keep in touch with what is happening in the market?
Well, I keep in touch with what's happening in the market by being in the market. Fortunately, we have a product where nobody lets you alone. I mean, I think there are a few industries in India and perhaps a few personal things, like a doctor, movies. Okay? They will say this movie is lousy, this will not win an Oscar. On cricket, you have everybody who can create a team. Biscuits is one. I mean, I go into the trade, which is great, but if I have to spend half an hour here, at least 10 people will come and tell me what's wrong with me and our products. And it's important in a situation like this to keep an open mind. It becomes very easy for us to close our minds and say, we know it all. This person is talking through his hat. I don't want to listen to him. I don't want to listen to a member of the trade. And when I tour, I go and see a movie with my distributors. Maybe in a small town, and I will insist on seeing a movie at 9 o'clock. Not only do you see a movie, you have a meal, you are able to talk to him because he distributes 5 other products as well. I mean, and he tells you what's happening in Horlicks, what's happening in Levers, and it's important. And of course, when you meet retailers, they're the best. You have to, there's no replacing the fact of keeping in touch. If somebody is going to give you that data, then I think you're going to sort of get your facts wrong pretty fast.
A small question that I had about quality. How have you maintained such a good quality for your products throughout the last couple of years? You know, whether you eat a Britannia biscuit here or you eat it there, it tastes exactly the same.
I think this is a very good question, because somebody asked me, do you make the best biscuits in India? And I said, no, we don't. If you want the best biscuits in India, you have to go to the Taj shop or the Oberoi shop or maybe Kayani's in Pune or Standards in Delhi or Nerula's in Delhi. They make the best biscuits because they make biscuits for the day. They charge you 3 times the price that we charge you. But what we do is we are like what you could term as quality restaurants. If anybody has grown up in living in small towns, And you could go to Lucknow and you can go to Jabalpur, and the moment you see the sign quality, it's always packed, because the consumer knows what to expect, and every time he goes in, he gets a little more. And that's what we've tried to do, is that we've given the consumer to expect X of us at a particular price, and every time we just try and exceed that. So we don't make the best, we just exceed your expectation on each occasion. That's what we do.
Sunil, first I'd like to thank you for that's definitely one of the best business lectures that I've heard. My question is not more to do with Britannia, but on your advice to the youth of today, your advice specifically in terms of education. We heard that you have a very good educational background, but looking back or looking at the industry today, how does it work now? Would you recommend to a 17, 18-year-old to go get that MBA from an IIM, or instead aim higher, if it's a higher aim, to get it from Harvard or Oxford? Or would it say, forget about that MBA, it doesn't teach you anything, get down, roll up sleeves, get your hands dirty, get to the business, that's the way you really learn?
This is, when we came out of IIM, we were about the earliest batches, maybe the third batch or third batch I think, when I came out. We went through a period where the companies didn't know what to do with us. We were like aliens who would arrive, oh, these guys are MBAs, and what do we do with them? We were also quite wary, because we ourselves, some of us thought we were hot cats, so we got to teach all these guys on day one. And what you begin to learn very quickly is that there's no replacing a great education, and there's no replacing experience. So if you are able to use, where do you strike an advantage over someone who hasn't got a good education, like an IIM or something abroad, or even there are now Narsi Monjis, there are enough institutes, it's not just the IIM, is that when you go into the market or into the factory, or you're reading a balance sheet, from somebody who's just got experience and you've got a little bit of both, you will read it much better than him. You will be able to stay a step ahead of him through that education, which I call the base. It opens your mind up, you're able to appreciate a lot more cross functions. And I would always recommend, but I think our system is bad, because we go straight from college into MBA. Whereas abroad, you've got to do 2 years of work before you go into an MBA. And I think that's a much better system. I think because the Indian system is that the parents want to save money and finish everything on education in one go and say, okay, now it's over. Once you start working, they tend to say, okay, now he's working, now let him look after his own education. So I don't know. You should work for 2 years. And then you can take that leap, because you have that option. If you've gone in and you're a genius and you started working and you're getting great growth in the organization, then don't stop to step off. You've gone into that exceptional zone in any case. But if you are trudging along, then do get off and go for that MBA degree and come back again, because that will give you that extra lift that you need. But try and get a bit of both. I mean, you don't try and just go straight in from college into working and hope that you can make it. That's all that I would recommend.
Thanks, Sunil. Just one more question. How many hours do you work in a day?
I think in my organization, people are quite comfortable with the hours of work. They're not comfortable with my timings. I would normally, if you ask me, work for maybe 4 to 5 hours in a day. If you ask me how long I'm in the office, maybe 9 or 10. I would normally be spending the balance in either just staring at the ceiling. It's a fantastic experience if you sit in the office and by yourself and just stare into empty space. Lots of ideas will come to your mind. I mean, you feel you're good. And take a break between people. I mean, and it's great. Take a break between subjects. Don't try and go from one meeting into another meeting. You're not a genius. You might think it's great, but it's not. Just try and get yourself a break. But I would go. I'm not a morning person. I cannot go to work at 9. I'll relate one very simple story, because there was a managing director of mine. I won't take his name. He tried his best to get me to come to work on time. I would always arrive at about office began at 9 and I would come at about 10 or 10:30. And for me, it was important to finish my work rather than what time I came in. And he thought he had come up with a very novel idea of getting me to work on time. He would pass by my room and he would leave a little note saying at 9:15 or 9:10, I'd drop by. Thought he'd frighten me because the managing director had dropped by and I wasn't there. It didn't work. Then he got his secretary to come and speak to me and saying that he's now toying with the idea of getting you to pick me up. That's the secretary who was saying. So that if I was late, she was going to be late and he'd be looking for her, and that's an extreme step he was planning. And I said, it's a great idea. I got no problems in picking you up to work, but just tell him instead of one person, now there'll be 2 people who will be late. and I think he dropped the idea as well. But I don't think it's important. You must be on time. When I say you must be on time, you must be on time for your meetings. You must be on time for when you call people to discuss things with them. That's discipline. But I'm not particular about the fact that have you come half an hour late. If you come half an hour late, work till 9 o'clock at night. I mean, there's no problem at all. But I stay at the office as long as I enjoy it. And lots of my colleagues stay in the office because maybe they don't like their wives, but I mean, we all stay at work, and you have people keeping independent. We also dress the way we like in our organization. The only thing that's not allowed is jeans and t-shirts and sneakers. But other than that, you'll have people coming in ties, you'll have people coming in jackets, you'll have people coming in shirts which are out. Feel comfortable. I mean, what we want to do is, I always say that at the end of the day, you have to look at the bottom line, and because it's your bottom that's on the line.
It was a very nice presentation. I noticed in all the ads the emphasis that Britannia marketing efforts has with sport, especially with cricket. I even remember the slogan that you ran last time was Britannia Cow World Cup Jao. Now what I'm interested to know is what is your association with the upcoming World Cup?
Our association is with cricket. I mean, we have half the team that's going to carry the Britannia sticker on their bat. That's a very strong association for India. I mean, other than that, we've got some consumers who bought our packs whom we'll send. But we don't have any other association with the World Cup in terms of organization or anything like that.
You are not one of the sponsors?
No, we're not one of the sponsors, but we have paid for the rights to use the ICC logo and the World Cup in India for biscuits. But we're not like LG and Hero Honda who've paid in crores. Our objective is pay as little as you can and draw the maximum mileage.
Okay, thank you.
A whiskey was a great success. And yet, when I wanted to get it, it was not available in Bangalore anywhere. No, but it was available in one place, with one stockist in Calcutta. And I had to get it air freighted to me. Now, how do you miss such a consumer?
All I can say is that in our fold by 2004 for sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Alagh, this has been haunting me for a long time. What is your advice to companies who are cash rich, doing very well, but think they don't need the general public to be aware of them? Are they right in thinking that way?
You're obviously asking about Britannia, I'm sure.
No.
No, I don't know. If they don't want to, you mean obviously financial analysts and the media, right? They don't want to talk about it to them. I'm presuming that that's what you mean.
The media as well as the general public, they wouldn't know about the company, but the company is doing very well and it's big.
If they're publicly held, I think it's your right and they have to explain it to their shareholders. If they are closely held and they are not dependent on the outside world, they must have very good reasons why they are not letting anybody know. They may be planning an IPO, they might be doing things which at this point of time they don't want to share with everyone. So if they're widely held and they're not informing the public, then they cannot but do so at least at the AGM. They can avoid everything else. They cannot do it now. Every quarter they've got to give their results. They've got to give fairly detailed analysis. If you write to them, and if they don't answer your questions, you can make a hue and cry about it. But if you're talking about a company that's privately held, I think it becomes very difficult for you to force them to talk about what they're doing and if they're doing it well or not. That would be their own decision.
But is it a risk that the general public doesn't know about the company?
Yeah, it's a risk only if they are stakeholders. That's why I say if it's widely held, then it's a big risk. But if it's a closely held company, then the only risk is for the people who hold shares in that company and not for the rest. So they have every right to say that nobody's at risk but ourselves in not letting you know what we're doing. So you have to just check whether, I don't know which company this is, but if it's widely held, I'll be very surprised if they're not coming up and telling people what they're doing, because they will buy one share and go to a shareholders meeting and ask all the questions you want on them. They'll have to answer it. There's no way in which they can avoid it.
Thank you.
I would now request Mr. R.T. Kumar, President of the Advertising Club of Bangalore, to deliver the vote of thanks.
The presentation was pure magic. The commercial stole our little hearts. Thank you, Mr. Sunil Larat, on behalf of the Advertising Club members and all of us here for making this a very good day. All I can say is ting, ting, ting. And thank you, Bunty, Sadhika, and the rest of MA for this lovely evening. Thank you.
Well said.